Hello everyone. Today I am going to talk about tone of the author. Usually while reading anything, be it a sentence or a paragraph or a larger composition, we try to identify the tone of the author. Now, when an author writes anything, he or she has four things in mind. First, purpose. Why am I writing this? Such and such a reason. Second, the audience. For whom am I writing? Am I writing for children? Am I writing for corporate professionals? Am I writing for undergraduate literature students? So the audience is important for the author. Third is reception. How will the audience receive my writing? I want my audience to think in such a way when they read what I have written. Now, for the audience to receive my writing in a certain way, I will have to style my writing in a particular manner. And then fourth comes tone. What are my attitudes or feelings towards a subject? And is my writing able to convey those attitudes and emotions? So that is what tone of the author is all about. Now, I have got a little presentation for you, and let me take a while to get the presentation ready. Let me share my screen. I hope the screen is visible. Let me go to the slideshow mode. Now, this is an important topic which we must think about. We should be able to identify the tone of the author whenever we are reading anything, whether it is a poem, whether it is a novel, or whether it is a prose writing of any kind. We should be able to identify the tone of the author. So this is part one of the lecture. We will begin with the question, what is tone? Tone reflects the author's attitude towards a subject. The writer's tone is the way in which he or she says something as opposed to what he or she is actually saying. Tone conveys the writer's emotions or attitudes towards the information in the sentence or paragraph or article. So these are things which we were talking about in the beginning of this video. Now, how is tone conveyed in speech? And I would say the one word which is important here is intonation. What is intonation? Variation in the pitch of the voice. It's a kind of voice modulation which brings about differences in meaning. Now look at the sentences that are there on the screen. Suppose I say, what happened? You are late. You can easily understand that I'm angry with the person for being late. Now, if I say, "What happened? You're late," you will understand that I'm concerned about the person and I want to know the reason that caused their lateness. Then, if I say, "What happened? You're late," my tone is neutral. I am neither showing anger nor concern. I'm just expressing something in a matter of fact way. So the tone here is neutral. Now, this is something that happens in speech. From intonation, we can guess the tone of the speaker. But how is tone conveyed in writing? That is our topic of discussion today. Because when we are not listening, then there should be some cues which tell us what the tone of the writer is. So the tone of the author is revealed in writing through language features, style. How are the ideas arranged in the writer? Diction, which are the words that have been chosen by the author to convey what he or she wants to say. I'll just give you a little example here. Suppose someone says, "He is filthy rich." Now, what does it mean? Filthy rich. This expression has a negative connotation, and somebody would say that to mean that the person is of, the affluence of that person is almost offensive. Maybe the person has become rich through corrupt means, and that is why the affluence seems offensive. Or maybe, the person's attitude is such that, the way they spend their money, that is offensive. So something negative about this adjective is conveyed here. But if the word affluent is used, suppose you say, "She's affluent." So in that case, the tone would have something positive in it. Somebody is affluent, somebody is well-to-do, they are, uh, you know, they have a certain position in the society, and maybe, they are using their affluence in positive ways. So that has a positive tone. So in this manner, this is just an example, in this manner, the choice of words determines the tone of the writer. Then organization, how have the ideas been organized, let us say, in paragraph? Okay, that also determines the tone of the writer. Then figurative language, because often figurative language is used to persuade, is used to convince, or it's used to put one's point with force, with stress, with strength, and that is why figurative language also determines the tone of the writer. All right. Then I am now going to give you some examples of tone. Now, these have been taken from books that I have, and I like to open the book and just go through the pages trying to look for an apt sentence or sentences that would make me understand the tone of the writer. And I enjoyed this activity of selecting some sections from those books for you. Now, this extract is taken from the book titled The Lamp is Lit, Leaves from a Journal by Ruskin Bond. When Newton sat beneath an apple tree and an apple fell on his head, he discovered the law of gravity. When I sat beneath an apple tree and a large red Himachali apple fell on my head, I discovered that far from keeping the doctor away, an apple can give you a headache. Now, what kind of a tone the author employs here? I would say that the tone is humorous. And why have I concluded that the tone is humorous? Because of the comparison that the writer has brought in between Newton and the process in which he discovered the law of gravity. And you know, Ruskin Bond, trying to imagine what would happen if a very big Himachali apple fell on his head. So, this totally different or totally opposite situation which his imagination has brought in gives the tone a humorous or funny shade. Then let us go to the next one. This sentence has been taken from the book titled The Best English by G.H. Valence. Let me read the sentence. Since our language is living, usage has continually changed over the period we shall consider some 450 years and is indeed still changing. So what kind of a tone is employed by the writer here? I would say the tone is formal or objective or academic because the writer is talking about language change and how that has affected the usage of the language. So something factual is being put forth here. It's a truth, and that is how a truth would be spoken in an objective tone. Some information is being given. Okay. Then let us go to the next one. Again, this is an extract from Ruskin Bond's writing. The book is titled A Book of Simple Living. It seems to me that most people are scared of solitude, for almost everything is carried out on a crowded scale. Clubs, wedding parties, sporting events, political meetings, victory parades, religious events, meals, even prayer meetings. The bigger the crowd, the more successful the event. Let a man be seen walking about the hills or countryside alone, and he will be labeled an eccentric. Now, what is the tone of the writer here? We can detect that the tone of the writer is critical or sarcastic. The writer, when he says the bigger the crowd, the more successful the event, does not actually mean that. He means just the opposite. He wants to say that crowds are always not the best places to be in. But the author also highlights on a specific aspect of society. Now, if there is a crowd, the society would be comfortable with it. The society is used to what, looking at people together, and if people are talking, shouting, smiling at each other, waving, gossiping, then everything is fine. But if somebody is seen, taking a solitary walk, or if somebody is seen keeping to himself or herself, then the society gets suspicious. The society will start talking, and it might lead to a certain point where the person will be labeled eccentric or mad because the person does not love companionship. But the society does not understand that company does not mean the company of people alone. Company could mean the company of hills, the company of trees, the company of skies, the company of, the greenery around, the company of bird calls. So the society would not understand that if they call such a person eccentric. So this is a critical or sarcastic tone that the writer employs or uses. Now we go to the next one. This extract is from the book titled Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Your frog is your biggest, most important task, the one you're most likely to procrastinate on if you don't do something about it. It is also the one task that can have the greatest positive impact on your life and results at the moment. The first rule of frog eating is this: if you have to eat two frogs, eat the ugliest one first. This is another way of saying that if you have two important tasks before you, start with the biggest, hardest, and most important task first. Discipline yourself to begin immediately and then to persist until the task is complete before you go on to something else. How did you find the tone here? Persuasive, isn't it? You feel inspired to, go and do that task which you have been avoiding till now, right? So persuasion, that is actually a way that the writer employs to convince people to accept a view or an idea. Now, here, the comparison between, the most difficult task that you have to do and the ugliest frog that you have to eat may be, the difference between these two ideas. This will have the biggest impact on your mind, and you will understand why you have been avoiding the task till now. Because yes, if a task is difficult, it seems, as uh, unacceptable as the thought of eating a frog. But the way the writer says, if you have to eat two frogs, if there are two difficult tasks, eat the ugliest one first. So the most difficult task out of the two, you should do first. And that is how the writer convinces you that this is the best way to go about your tasks. Okay, so this is an example of a persuasive tone. So these were some examples where you got the idea of what the tone of the author is all about and how do we use the cues that we find in any kind of writing to determine the tone of the author. Because the tone of the author is important in helping us to improve our comprehension of that particular writing. Thank you.